If your gut's been a mess all throughout 2025, tune in so you don't repeat the same year twice. In this video, I'm going to show you my exact approach to fixing gut issues step by step so you can get rid of IBS symptoms, beat bloating, and feel like yourself again. We'll focus on addressing the true root causes of IBS, the habits that quietly sabotage digestion, the supplements that actually matter, and the lab tests that are actually useful to find answers. What's up and welcome to the video. I'm Dr. Daniel Ricciardi, doctor of pharmacy, creator of SIBO Shortcut, and the gut health supplement bloat blocker. I dealt with bloating, gas, and brain fog from IBS and SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, for about a decade. My goal is to help you fix your gut issues so you can enjoy eating and working out again. What you're going to learn in this video are the top methods that I found to work for the hundreds of clients that I've worked with. The stuff in this video has also worked well for other practitioners, for myself personally, and is supported by research. I'm going to break down the 6 things that you want to focus on and exactly how to do them step by step. As a quick disclaimer, this video is for educational purposes only. It is not medical advice, and the supplements, treatments, and suggestions I make in this video may not be safe or appropriate for everyone. Always work with a licensed healthcare provider before starting any treatment. All right, let's get started now on the 6 steps. And I call them steps because I highly recommend that you do them in order. In fact, skipping steps or cutting out steps altogether may reduce your chances of success, cost you more time, and cost you more money. All right, step number 1, eat single ingredient foods, and if possible, only use single ingredient supplements as well, or supplements with the fewest ingredients possible. This is the most important step of all, by far. And if you remember anything at all from this video, remember this: single ingredient foods, single ingredient supplements. If any of my family or friends ever ask me, hey Dan, like what would you recommend? I'm trying to improve my gut health, or I'm just trying to improve my health in general, this is what I say 100% of the time. It's more important about what you don't eat than what you even do eat. Because if you're eating single ingredient foods using really high quality supplements, what you're not doing is eating highly processed foods. I'm not going to go into the full scientific breakdown of why this is bad, but basically your body doesn't recognize highly processed foods as food because there's a lot of different additives, ingredients, chemicals, fillers. This can cause your immune system to freak out. This can lead to chronic inflammation, and then you get symptoms and you don't know why. At the very beginning, when I first got into nutrition or had any sense that eating food could actually impact how I feel, or I should say how well I played sports, because at the time that was really all I cared about. I remember my best friend and I, we had just worked out. I think I was like 17 years old at the time. We just went to the gym, and he came home and made himself a protein shake right away. And I think that was the first conversation I talked about, hey, like we should eat more protein if you're lifting weights, try to build muscle. The only thing that we cared about was the number on the supplement label. Did it have a lot of protein in it? Not necessarily the ingredient list. So from late teens, early 20s on, my diet was pretty much anything that was high in protein. I loved eating it. Those muscle milk liquid shakes, which I really used to like the taste of. Liquid protein shakes, I wouldn't recommend anybody ever eat from the amount of nasty ingredients in them. It's pretty scary. So I'd have muscle milk, that Optimum Nutrition whey protein. If you use protein supplements, you know exactly the one I'm talking about. It's a black bottle with different flavors. And I'd also eat a lot of those Tyson chicken tenders. They're basically like Cajun seasoned chicken, which tasted really good. Not really the best ingredients, but I would say a step better than having something like muscle milk. At least the base chicken part of it is actual chicken. So long story, basically what I'm saying, I cared about working out, getting protein, and eventually macros. Didn't really care about ingredients as much just because we didn't really know anything about it. And I didn't have any chronic digestive issues. This is before I got SIBO, so it didn't really matter. And I think this is kind of a trend for a lot of people that I've talked to. What you can get away with maybe when you're 18 years old, 23 years old, 27 years old even, may not work for you when you get a little older into your 30s. Or for some people, they have to correct this even a lot earlier in their early 20s. It can be very confusing, very frustrating, but ultimately, if you're trying to have better gut health, when you look at the food, look at things that only have a single ingredient in them or no ingredient label at all. Obviously, there's some exceptions. If there's some added salt to that food, no worries. And there's obviously exceptions the other way around. If you're eating something like a vegetable oil, that's a highly inflammable oil. That's going to have one ingredient as well, but we still don't want to eat that. Quick note on supplements. Like I mentioned, try to get ones that have as few additives, flavorings, and ingredients as possible. You're just going to be doing yourself a favor. If you like taking a supplement because it's a gummy form, that's not a reason to take a supplement. If your calcium supplement is a piece of chocolate, can't remember the name, I know one of them is, focus on just getting the nutrients you need from supplements. All right, step number 2, activate your parasympathetic nervous system. This is a fancy way of saying you have to reduce your stress. You have to do this constantly. Just like you wouldn't try to fix a car while it's speeding down the highway, you shouldn't ask your body to try to digest a meal while you're stressed out. We have to give our body a heads up that we're about to eat food. I used to work at a large retail pharmacy for a really long time, and trying to eat throughout the workday is not always easy. For most of my years that I worked at the pharmacy, we didn't actually get a break to eat lunch or dinner, so we're eating as we're working. If you've been in a pharmacy ever, you know that it's not exactly the most relaxed atmosphere. If you were going to try to have a meal, I'd usually end up having a smoothie, and I would be drinking the smoothie as quickly as possible while filling prescriptions, talking on the phone, answering questions, hopefully not getting yelled at. But the reality of it was these things were happening constantly, and it was not a great environment to be eating food when you wanted to digest it well. The other reality was throughout my 20s, I didn't focus on mental health stuff at all. I'm 37 now, so my 20s, this is from 2008 to about 2018. Obviously, mental health talked about a ton right now, but even if you go back like 5 or 6 years, it wasn't talked about nearly as much. And then if you go back 15 years, it really wasn't talked about at all. Even if you work in a very high stress job or you're just dealing with a lot of stress in the moment, fortunately, it is relatively easy to get your body in a better rest and digest mood instead of fight or flight. Easiest way to do this, if you take 6 deep breaths where you're breathing in slowly, holding that breath at the top for 3 or 4 seconds, releasing that breath, pausing for 3 or 4 seconds, then breathing in again. Repeat this 5 or 6 times. This is called box breathing. If you do this for literally 1 minute before you eat, you can really help your body digest the meal better. 60 seconds, do this. Also recommend, if at all possible, try not to be doing something stressful while you're eating. Obviously, people have jobs, people have children, people have responsibilities, things that they need to take care of. But if you can avoid work, if you can avoid emails while you're eating, please make every effort to do this. All right, step number 3. These are things that I consider eating hygiene practices. Just like you wouldn't jam a whole stack of papers into a paper shredder all at once, you shouldn't be shoveling your food down your throat, eating super quickly and not chewing. The only thing that you can do personally to help your body digest the food is chew the food really well. Once you swallow your bite of food down, it's up to your body, whatever help you gave it or didn't give it, it's up to your body, your stomach and your intestine to finish the job digesting. If you think of something like the Coney Island hot dog eating competition, people are basically shoveling down hot dogs and not even chewing them. Their body's not going to be able to digest those really well. Chew the food till it's about a jelly-like consistency. This is going to give your stomach the best chance to digest that food quickly, pass it from the stomach into the small intestines quicker, so that food isn't sitting in your stomach producing gas, making you bloated, making you burp. Step number 4, digestive support supplements. These unfortunately tend to be the thing that people will try to do first. If you haven't done so already, go back, do these previous 3 steps, and then if none of that stuff helped and you genuinely tried it, gave it a good effort for at least a few weeks, you can come to this step. I'm going to try to cover almost all the categories I have here and give a quick breakdown on whether I like the supplement or don't like the supplement. Starting out, probiotics, very helpful to do after you take a round of antibiotics or antimicrobial herbs. If you have loose stools, strains such as Lactobacillus and Saccharomyces boulardii can be useful. If you have constipation, the Bifidobacterium strands may be more helpful. For most people, something in the 10 to 20 billion range is a good amount of probiotics in a capsule. If you have pretty significant digestive issues that you're trying to recover from, sometimes using a much higher level where the 100 billion or more may be necessary. I don't think using probiotics round the clock, year after year, month after month is necessary for most people though. Prebiotics, I don't really think these are a priority if you eat a well-balanced diet and you're eating some fruits and vegetables. If you're eating a carnivore diet or a super low FODMAP diet for a long period of time, these can be useful. Again, I don't think it's something you need to include long-term. Postbiotics, if you don't know what this is, these are compounds and things produced by probiotics. Again, not really a priority unless something like butyrate comes up. If you do a stool test and shows that it's really low, even then, I would just focus on eating a well-balanced diet, fruits, vegetables, even some garlic, onion, if you're able to tolerate it. And if you're going to use these, I'd say this is more of a short-term thing as well. The prebiotic, postbiotic thing, I think there's a lot of marketing behind it and trying to convince people, hey, this is like the thing that you need. I don't really think they're necessary. Digestive enzymes, I think they can be very useful. Key way to know if you might need digestive enzymes, if you get like that lower belly bloat around your belly button a couple hours after you eat, can be a sign you may have low digestive enzymes. Stool tests also check for a marker called elastase, basically showing how much digestive enzymes your pancreas is producing. So if it's shown that it's low on that, you may be able to use them and get some benefit from them. Apple cider vinegar or betaine HCl for boosting stomach acid. I love using these. Having low stomach acid is one of the most common things people have digestive issues from, especially people that have heartburn, where normally you'd think you'd want to do the opposite, lower stomach acid. Most heartburn is actually caused by having too little stomach acid instead of too much. Note, adding Manganese, if you have heartburn, you gotta be really careful because if you're still getting the acid reflux, it can make your symptoms worse. So trying to taper off acid blockers while supporting that mucus lining and then slowly introducing these stomach acid boosters is your best bet to do it safely. When I was recovering from SIBO, I took betaine HCl, apple cider vinegar, digestive enzymes for a few years while my gut health was getting up to full strength, and then I eventually tapered off of these. Ox bile, bile salts, and TUDCA, these are gallbladder support, liver support, help with digesting fat. If you have fatty, greasy stools that have like a clay texture, stools that are gray, you notice you don't digest fatty foods as well, or you're missing a gallbladder, these can be really useful. If you're missing a gallbladder, you'll probably want to include one of these in your regimen long term. Magnesium, this is one of my all-time favorites. Usually magnesium citrate used the most as something to help with constipation, but there's also magnesium glycinate, which I really like, and magnesium threonate. Citrate's more for constipation, threonate's more for anxiety, more for sleep, and then glycinate, just a general use magnesium. Unfortunately, most people are either suboptimal or even deficient in magnesium. So this is one of the few things I feel like I can make a recommendation that pretty much everybody could safely take a magnesium supplement and get some sort of benefit from it. Colostrum, a good option to use, especially if you've had like a long-term dysbiosis, gut issue, and you're trying to support your immune system. Glutamine, this is probably one of the most researched supplements for gut health. Very good for leaky gut. As long as you don't have sleep issues or problems with anxiety, I'd say include anywhere from 5 grams daily up to like 20 grams daily if you have really significant gut issues, maybe something like celiac disease, to help heal your gut. BPC 157, this is a peptide, more newer on research, so I don't have like a really strong opinion on this yet, but from the things I'm reading, I made a video on it previously as well. I'll link down in the description below. Seems very promising for gut issues. And if you've tried the rest of the stuff in this video and it doesn't seem to be working, this may be a potential option for you. Obviously work with a healthcare practitioner. Fiber, with the exception of PHGG, partially hydrolyzed guar gum, if you're somebody that has SIBO and you're using it for bloating or constipation or diarrhea, I'm not really a big supporter of fiber supplements. I think the whole fiber thing gets a little bit overblown. I would just try to eat a variety of foods, and then you're going to eat fiber in your diet. Not everybody needs to get, I think it's like 40 grams of fiber per day in your diet. I'm pretty sure there's no way that I'm getting 40 grams a day and I've felt the best I ever feel. So not a huge fan of fiber supplements unless you notice that they really work for you. Then in that case, go for it. Greens powders, I'm not a fan of these in general. I don't know what's in them. They're usually 100 ingredient proprietary blends. You don't know what quantity you're getting of each ingredient. You don't know how pure the ingredients are. Just like the fiber, if you really like your greens powder and it helps you, then go for it. Otherwise, this wouldn't be my main recommendation for something to do for gut health. Laxatives, I keep this to like 1 week use only, especially if it's a stimulant laxative like a Senna or a Bisacodyl. The brand name for those is Dulcolax. If it's something like a stool softener, like a Colace, which is Docusate, you could probably get away with using these long term. Still, I don't really like them. I'd rather you use magnesium citrate. Imodium, again, on this short term use only. You shouldn't be using this long term. Mucilaginous herbs such as DGL, marshmallow, slippery elm. These can help with mucus production that can line the small intestine, which can be useful for healing the gut. Carminative herbs such as fennel. If you have trap gas, these can be a useful tool to use as well. And then lastly, you have bloat blocker here. This is a supplement that I developed about a couple of years ago. A main ingredient in them is tamarind seed, which is really high in a compound called xyloglucan with an X. This is a little different than the other supplements that I mentioned because it works in a different way. I mentioned that mucus layer that the mucilaginous herbs can help with. This is essentially protecting that mucus layer to help you get less inflammation and make it harder for bacteria that we don't want to stick to and live on the small intestinal lining. This also uses a pea protein isolate to help boost that effect. It's known as a mucoprotectant effect. I know a lot of people don't really care for pea protein. Honestly, I don't either. So keeping this in mind when I made bloat blocker, I sourced basically the purest isolate possible to get rid of all that FODMAP part where you eat it and you get that heavy bloated feeling. Because as somebody that had IBS and bloating and gas for a decade, that's the last thing I want to have somebody else have. Also, these come in capsules, so you are getting some pea protein, but it's like the tiniest amount. For people who bloat from normal pea protein powder, for most of them, to their surprise, this did the exact opposite and reduced their bloating. If you want to check it out, go to blueorchardwellness.com, link down in the description below. All right, on to step number 5, get your routine labs done. If you don't do this, go to your regular doctor's appointment, schedule them, get your physical, get the labs done, rule out common conditions. So blood work done, such as CMP, which is like sodium, potassium, the CBC, which is red blood cell, white blood cell, platelets, stuff like that, cholesterol, glucose, A1C is actually a little bit better, or fasting insulin. Some other tests that I found to be useful for addressing digestive issues are cortisol, thyroid testing, free and total T3 and T4 and TSH as well, testosterone tests, and then for women also estrogen, progesterone, and then a couple other scans that are commonly covered by insurance would just be getting a standard colonoscopy or endoscopy. Because sometimes there's a pretty glaring issue that's noticeable if they just do a scan and take a look at it. Lastly, now step 6. So if you've done all these other things, you're down to single ingredient foods and high quality supplements, you're reducing stress, hopefully all the time, but especially around eating. You're chewing your food really well, not drinking a lot of liquid with meals to not dilute stomach acid, and you're eating slowly and mindfully. Maybe we've tried some supplements and gone to our regular doctor's appointment, got our lab work done, still not seeing any potential issues or had anything help. Now's the time to investigate other potential root causes and get other lab work done. A couple tests that I really like. Number 1 is a GI map test or a similar functional stool test. These check for dangerous bacteria and other dangerous microbes, your levels of good bacteria, things like parasites, fungi, viruses. They usually check for H. pylori, not all of them, but most of them. And then some intestinal markers, so you know like how much inflammation you have going on in your intestine, antibodies in your intestine to know how strong or how active your immune system is. Usually you'll want to be working with, or at least have this reviewed by some sort of practitioner that knows what the heck they're talking about in reviewing one of these tests. But you can get a really good amount of solid data. And if you haven't been able to identify an issue of why you have digestive issues, this is a great place to start. I will say this though, point of caution, just because something is out of the normal range, that doesn't mean that a drastic action needs to be taken. I would probably caution people, if you don't feel like you have any gut issues, I mean, you probably shouldn't be doing this. There's no point to getting a GI map test. But just because one thing is out of range doesn't mean that we always have to treat or do something aggressive to try to correct it. I've had people that end up feeling really good, but they just like doing testing and knowing what numbers and what the before and after looks like. And I've had people that feel perfectly fine, and then they'll look and one of the bacteria will be out of range, and then they'll think like, oh shoot, like do I need to do another treatment? Do I need more antibiotics, herbals, probiotics? We don't always have to take action. As long as you're feeling good, that's probably the only thing that matters. So instead of seeing if one thing's out of line, try to look for trends in the information. Do you have really low levels of lactobacillus on your tests and your main symptom is loose stools? Look for trends, and matching them with symptoms can be useful in determining what action plan to actually take. Second test that I really like, I work with a ton of clients for SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and intestinal methanogen overgrowth. So doing a SIBO breath test is a great test to do along with the GI map test to try to figure out why you're having digestive symptoms. If you're not familiar with the breath test, essentially you drink a little bit of a sugar, usually it's lactulose or fructose, and then you breathe into a device or a machine every 15 to 20 minutes over the course of 2 to 3 hours. And the machine is measuring how much hydrogen, methane, or hydrogen sulfide that you're breathing out. And by this, we know how many of those bacteria or microorganisms are present in the small, large intestine that are producing those gases. There's been some arguments online recently, like, is breath testing accurate? Is it not? I could tell you from my own personal experience that with testing, the higher the numbers are for people on the breath test, the worse their symptoms are. This has also been verified by Dr. Mark Pimentel, who's the head SIBO researcher in the world, and he found the same thing for hydrogen, methane, and hydrogen sulfide. So is it perfect? No, but is it by far the best test that we have right now to try to diagnose SIBO? Absolutely, and absolutely worth doing. There you have it. Those are my 6 tips broken down in a lot of detail. Hopefully this video was helpful. That is all for today. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful, please like and subscribe to my channel for more related content. Since you watched till the end, I think you'll find one of these 2 videos here helpful next. Hopefully you're able to put this video and these steps and these recommendations into action and have your best possible gut health in 2026. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.